Hey, everybody. Ed Carbazel here for MMAnews.com. This is your Sunday submission for January 17th, the day after UFC on ABC in Abu Dhabi as they made their return to Fight Island. Happy Sunday. I hope you all had a safe weekend and you're enjoying your football or whatever you're watching. Make sure you check out MMAnews.com. We got the full results up and stories from yesterday over at the I'm going to add it up really quick here. It's messing up my stream a little bit. But we've got all the news from yesterday up over at MMAnews.com, so make sure you check it out, as including the results from yesterday's UFC on ABC 1, the first card they've ever done on ABC, on the ABC network. Definitely wasn't a disappointment, especially the broadcast portion, the main card. I heard the prelims weren't that good. I didn't watch them. Early card. But before we move on, please make sure when you watch this video where it lives on the MMAnews.com YouTube channel, you click the thumbs up, the like, subscribe, bell notification for future content. We have interviews up there as well for the upcoming events. Roxanne Modafferi, Amanda Ribas, who fight this week. So make sure you check out MMAnews.com and the YouTube channel for all that content. I am Ed Carbazel. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. That's my handle right there. So there's a lot to talk about, obviously. The top story, if you're looking at the little image I got on here, top story from yesterday, everybody was impatiently waiting for Khabib to kind of, the meeting with Dana White they made a very big deal about it with the videos, and Dana White, apparently they're not done meeting. They're going to meet again when they return to Vegas. I know Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, because so we got a maybe Khabib might come back. Just if you didn't know already, we got a maybe. Khabib said he'd come back. If you ask me personally, I don't think he is. And apologies for wearing a hat. I'm in desperate need of a haircut. As you know, the weather in New Jersey in the Northeast is god awful this time of year, so I'm just letting it grow out to keep my head warm. But the hairdo is a little unmanageable, so I'm rocking a hat to keep you guys from seeing the horror that lives atop my head that I let grow out because of the pandemic, the pandeezy, as I've been calling it. Anyway, so we got a maybe out of Khabib. Says he wants to see what happens at 257, which is next weekend. I'll be doing my 7 takeaways from that. Next Sunday submission. Plus, we got a card in between with the Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny on Wednesday, which I believe is all on ESPN. So UFC coming back strong for the beginning of the year. I know we've been impatient. As fight fans, we're never happy. Let me take this off the screen because it's bothering me. There we go. That's much better. But you can check out MMAnews.com. We got the full results and everything. But the story on Khabib returning. So apparently he wants to see what happens with Chandler, Hooker. I forgot what the main event, obviously. And there's the funny thing is if you watch UFC on ABC yesterday, even Max Holloway, after fighting 5 rounds, that dude is something special. First of all, not only did he pick up the win in the fashion that he picked it up with extremely high output, never gave Calvin Kattar, who also deserves credit, by the way, but it never gave Calvin Kattar to get any kind of game going with the output that he put out. I think he broke all kinds of records with attempted strikes, significant strikes. The numbers are probably up all over social media, so you can check those out there. But he actually said afterward they're on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, which is like a resort. Now his job is done, so he's hanging out for the rest of the week. Obviously, he's probably got to get looked at by the doctors there and stuff before he does any type of flying. But he said he'd be there for UFC 257. As we know, Holloway has history with McGregor. I talked about it last weekend. Um, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I can't say I wouldn't be surprised because we kind of got an answer last night from the president, UFC president Dana White. But Holloway said he'd stick around as backup in case anything falls apart. I mean, they have enough going on with they could easily throw if let's say, I mean, I don't want that fight to fall apart between Poirier and McGregor, but let's say one of them do that. I mean, they have other guys on the card that they've done it before, switch guys around and to save a card. But Holloway offered to step in for that after the war. I mean, it's not like he didn't take any damage last night, right? He had some marks. There's points where I thought the blood that was on his face was his blood before we realized that Qatar had the cut right at the hairline there. So, but listen, Holloway was a favorite. I mean, I actually had Holloway picked to win by like finishing Qatar, and he didn't. I mean, there was a point, I think in round 4, where I thought Qatar was out on his feet. I think this is the stuff that people were complaining on the social media about, that the fight should have been stopped or what have you. But not for nothing, the heart that he showed. I mean, he was throwing back like nobody's business, Calvin Qatar. Like there was a point where right when you thought he was going to go down, he didn't go down, and he was just throwing. I mean, they were all Hail Mary wild punches, but man, was that a great fight. I mean, it's crazy how last year, early in the year, there's events that happen where you already have a fight checked or marked or in your notebook that's a potential fight of the year, and that's definitely one of them, especially when it goes to a decision. I mean, yeah, it was a unanimous decision for Holloway, but I mean, I tweeted afterward because I actually watched it with my parents, the main event. I got to see that live, and then later, because the card was so early, I had to go back and watch the rest of the fights, but which we're going to get to in a minute. But man, if you weren't a fan of Calvin Qatar, now he's definitely main card booking, showing the heart against Holloway the way he did. The points where you thought he was finished, he was fine afterward. By the way, Dana White and Dana White, Calvin Qatar and Dana White had words afterwards, and the media asked Dana White in the post-fight press conference like how, when he spoke to him, what words were exchanged, and Dana White said not only were his spirits good, but he seemed like like he was all right. But because it's funny thing is, I don't know if Dana White's ever said it before, but he said fights like that always, as much as we love them, you're always there as the president of the company. He was showing concern too, because he was like, the fights like that worry him because you never know what kind of after effect the fighters are going to have. I don't know if that's due to the Steve Morocco piece from MMA Fighting or not, because obviously with the Fisher story, a lot of folks are starting to see now. It's funny because when I first started watching MMA, the whole thing about the whole reason, as far as like the health aspect of the sport, mixed martial arts, it wasn't even called mixed martial arts back then. No holds barred fighting or NHB matches were considered safer than boxing, was because of brain health. But then as the sport evolved and grew, I remember it was an interview, I might have even mentioned this on here before, but there's an interview in Grappling Magazine. Randy Couture said it, where he said, submissions, the other alternative ways of winning outside of a knockout are going to go away as fighters evolve and get better at avoiding them and defending submissions and the other ways of winning. And knockouts are going to be, come back and be as prominent as they are in boxing. So I think we're starting to see that as the sport grows and evolves. I mean, so that might be one of the downsides, but an upside is obviously ABC. When was the last time they showed a combat sport on ABC? I mean, I know they have the history with Wide World of Sports and Muhammad Ali. They went through that. It's funny because Dana White was afraid of they didn't have an opener, and he was nervous about how ABC and the broadcast was going to go. But you had 1, 2, 3 knockouts in a row that actually not only made for great time because ABC wasn't going to let them run over. They go right into the news. it made for a great ending. I mean, you didn't get to see. I think they could. He said it ended at 57 in the post-fight press conference. The Holloway Qatar fight. It was at the 57th minute of the hour, just before the news started. So the timing was great. Things worked out good for them. But I wouldn't be surprised if when we get the ratings report and stuff like that, the ABC wants more of this. Even for a card early in the day. I know this weekend's a big football weekend. This is why not that many folks tune into this thing I do on Sundays, probably because of the timing. I feel like more folks watched it when we started it earlier in 2020. But either way, that's neither here nor there. The card overall was good, especially. I mean, usually if everything went to decision, even the fights, obviously the fights that went to decision were fantastic on the main card. Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. You know, some fans are never happy. I get that. You know, some people want all finishes. The Just Bleed fans want to see the knockouts and submissions. Even people that knock submission, no one's ever happy. Like I said when we started this thing, you know, people complain that there's too many UFC events, and then we go a few weeks for the holidays without them, and people are like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" I mean, I'm guilty as charged in that too, by the way. But you know, it makes for a nice break. The fighters need a break. The company needs a break. I mean, and look at us. Look at what we got. The first event back. Carlos Condit got the victory over Matt Brown. Matt Brown was on social media. I don't know if it was late last night or this morning, where he said like he felt he won the first round. He didn't agree with 30-27. But it was just you know, it was just more control over on Carlos Condit's part, and I was super impressed. There was a takedown in round 2 that Carlos Condit did that even had you know, the commentary team on their feet. Great fights on that main card, and a lot of upsets. One of the upsets that I mean, to me, the upset in the main event was that Holloway didn't finish, which is, again, I wasn't, like, you know, I was aware of Calvin Kattar and how good he was, but I definitely wasn't, excuse me, I definitely wasn't like as aware of his fortitude. Now, like, next time he fights, I'll probably put money on him, you know. The fight with Holloway, I mean, Holloway was a favorite, but he wasn't a heavy favorite, and I was kind of like I said, I thought Holloway could put him away, and he didn't, but he came very close. And then the fight with when you got someone like Matt Brown and someone like Carlos Condit, you know, when they during the broadcast they refer to them as veterans, and I was kind of like, you know, sometimes it's like calling someone a veteran in MMA, it's almost like you're calling them old, which I'm old, so I always take that with like a grain of salt. I'm always kind of like, you know, like what, like, does that mean they should hang it up soon? And we know Matt Brown has announced retirement and then come back himself. Carlos Condit went away for a bit and came back, you know, because he had the issue with his knee and stuff like that. But I mean, looked like he didn't have any issues last night. I mean, really good reversals. Great. It was a great fight. And those, I mean, if just the technique exhibited by Carlos Condit against someone like Matt Brown, just goes to show you what all that training and all the years of experience, you know, amount to. So one of the things, one of the upsets that happened was Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chirico. I just published an article about Di Chirico, about his refusal to do interviews and stuff afterwards, but we're gonna get to the interview, you know, that whole thing in a minute, because I just finished writing about that a little while ago. But I was one of the people that had Buckley, you know, winning. When I did my own podcast, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, both myself and the co-host were kind of like, you know, this is just setting up, you know, the UFC with their star power and branding and things like that. That was just a fight set up to have Buckley ride that viral KO that he had from last year, and the Chirico riding a 3-fight loss, was it just seemed like that was what the UFC was doing, and then and it's not like I don't know if it was you'd have to ask the fighters themselves, and I'm not you know trying to speak for Buckley, but it looked like Buckley wanted it to do some mental warfare leading up to, if you watch the interviews and stuff, leading up to the fight, and then during, it seemed like there was just there was some mental warfare that he wanted to initiate, and the Chirico was just like, I can't even do that because I need to win. I mean, so the Chirico explained his whole refusing to do interviews afterwards. Not only did he refuse interviews, he refused interviews with everybody, including Dana White commented on the post-fight press conference where he was like, congratulations and happy to see him, and he said his whole team kind of looked at him like he said they acted like they lost. So it's in my piece that I wrote about where he explains why he did that. But I kind of get where he's coming from too. One of the comments he kept saying was and I put the videos from MMA Junkie and UFC Arabia, and he said it a couple of times. He said to John Anik afterward, he doesn't like how in the game of promoting combat sports and events, how the interview. Of course, I mean it's what happens. The winner gets all the shine. The loser, even the fans of fighters, they find out who their true fans are when they lose, right? People stop paying attention to them. They don't get tagged in their tweets and stuff anymore on social media. So Alessio has a point there where he says, I don't like how you only interview the winners. There's a great fight is made by two people. There's a winner and a loser. And I think boxing actually does a better job of that when someone, they do it in the main event in UFC. Obviously they speak with both the winner and the loser, but he's wrong in that aspect. But for all the fights, I mean, look, you got to look at broadcast time. If you pull yourself out of it and the business side of it, you can't. You have to make time to interview everybody. I know sometimes even the co-main event loser will get interviewed, but it's probably for time that they don't get interviewed. So, but he explained where he was coming from by refusing to do that because he felt on the 3 fight losses that he was carrying, he felt that a couple of them probably could have went the other way. Maybe he got robbed or he felt like he got robbed, and would have probably liked some mic time to explain his side of things, or the fact that he thought that he won the fights that he got scored as an L for. So I get where he's coming from, and he's not wrong either about there's the respect side of things. I mean, all of these fighters, especially at this level, whether it be UFC, Bellator, Ryzen, the pro level in mixed martial arts, regional level, which is professional. That's where these fighters come from. The amount of work they put in to the sacrifices they make. There was a nice little promo actually with the Ron Perlman narration that talks about sacrifices that they make for the glory of combat and stuff like that, and they literally do. I mean, if I've interviewed enough fighters, there's fighters that give up jobs, and they have a good support system where the wife is, I got the kids in school and all that. You focus on your craft. Your 9 to 5 is going to the gym and training, and they miss a lot. I mean, they travel across the globe, especially now in the time of the coronavirus and bubbles and stuff like that. So maybe they can't even bring family with them, even if they could in the past. So it's time away and stuff like that. So that's where I feel Alessio was coming from. And he was really concerned with being cut from the UFC because a lot of folks know, especially when you look at, I think it was by the end of this month, Dana White was saying that, they were inflated in their roster, and about 60 to 80 fighters are going to have to be cut, especially when they're farming in these youngsters off of the Contender Series. You can get highlight reel talent for less money. I mean, you know what I mean? So like Carlos Condit fought the last fight on his contract, and he got a W. So if he wanted to hang it up, I doubt the UFC would try to keep him around, but that was one of the things that did come up in the post-fight press conference. And Dana White just, he said he loved Carlos Condit. I mean, about the history they have together. So it looks like they're going to offer him a renewal. And obviously Carlos Condit, it's going to be up to him whether he accepts or not like that. But, we're in a time now, obviously with the Anthony Pettis and the Rumble Johnson and Yoel Romero going to Bellator and Pettis going to PFL. We're in a time now where we see fighters, fighters are have options outside of the UFC with the growth of the sport. I mean, that saying about all the other ships rising with the tide, that's been something. Someone said that to me, I remember in 2014 or 2015 when everything was going on around here in New York about the legalization or not legalization or whatever, MMA events going on in the state of New York. Because of the whole Sheldon Silver and the culinary union nonsense. Once that got out of the way, and the UFC was able to come to Madison Square Garden like that you started seeing, more regional promotions popping out. More of them, they're on Fight Pass, Access TV had LFA for a while before they made their weird decision to sell it or whatever, and now LFA is on Fight Pass, but it was on another network. Excuse me, NBC Sports sees the same thing. They had World Series of Fighting, before they rebranded to the Professional Fighters League and moved over to ESPN. And now they have the Extreme Fighting Championships, which is they have their next event next month. So we're seeing a lot more networks and people see the growth of mixed martial arts. And I mean, the move to ABC, it's going to be better for the sport as a whole, whether you love the UFC or not. As a whole, it's going to be better for combat sports. So I'm happy to see it. But I went off on a tangent with the growth of the sport and stuff like that. But going back to the Chirico, I got where he was coming from when he said it, and then having him explain it this morning. By the way, that's on his Instagram. If you follow him, he put it up a couple hours ago. As I was writing the piece, and I was like, oh wow, he kind of broke it down. Helped me write a better piece on his explaining where he was coming from. So, super impressed with it. I mean, my mom and dad, they're generally not, they're boxing fans. I grew up in a Latino household, Julio Cesar Chavez, Roberto Duran, all that stuff, that the Mike Tyson, all the boxing is my dad boxed before he became an entrepreneur. So they never really, they always kind of knock mixed martial arts because they're boxing fans. But because I was there and they know that I do freelance as someone that covers the sport of mixed martial arts. I'm looking at my phone's getting the alerts and stuff, and they turned it on, and of course they were into it. From round 1 through round 5 with Max Holloway's fight. So, I mean, that's another testament to the growth of the sport. I mean, whatever your opinion is about it, it looks like people's minds are changing, especially when you get into that whole thing that Dana White says in one of the little promos that went on last night was how fighting is in the DNA, and it really is. You're not going to stay away from a fight, but overall, the results last night. Let's see if we can get the numbers. Mr. Ravens over at MMAnews.com might have included some numbers for the significant strikes. I'm just checking. I'm on MMAnews.com now. Well, I'd share the screen, but it slows down the stream a little, so I don't want to ruin that for you guys. I want to see if he put the numbers on here. It's not on here. I mean, he's got some of the striking, some social media posts, but I'm not going to wait for them to load. But I think he broke all kinds of records for significant strikes landed. And the fact that he did so many interviews afterward, I'm just like, dude, you weren't tired after that? I'd be tired. That was the other fight with the knockout on the main card. I mean, we had 2 knockouts and a TKO, if I'm remembering correctly. The full results here. because I don't want to get anybody's name wrong. Not Li Jinglang, which was a nice one. There it is. I don't want to get his name wrong. Punahele Soriano against Dusko Todorovic. That was their first fight. There was a weird, and that was something Dana White was worried about too. That knockout, I mean, the way he was rocking Todorovic's head back in that first round, the knockout was coming. There was a point I joked around because Todorovic's mouthpiece came out and got lodged in the cage. And Dana, that being the opening broadcast card, Dana White said in the post-fight press conference that he was so nervous about how the night was going to turn out because, like, with them trying to dig the mouthpiece out of the where it got stuck in the cage in that first round before it got put back in. He was about to get finished anyway, and he still got finished. But I was joking around that I said if I was Todorovic, I would have been like, take your time looking for that, So maybe he could have gotten some kind of recovery. I mean, he seemed to try to fight out of it, but I don't know what the power. I don't know how he survived those first couple of shots because there was one point where he was against the fence and he took a was it a straight right hand? I'd have to rewatch it. But one of his straight punches arched him back that his head hit the fence, and then he, found his balance again. So you knew that finish was coming. But that was with that whole little mouthpiece incident was one of the ones that had Dana White nervous about how the broadcast was going to go. But when you look at the timing of everything, it was definitely, if they went to decision, it was almost like 30 minutes between the, with filler, and they were showing the Stephen A. Smith stuff, and between the Ponzinibbio Jing Liang fight and the Condit Brown fight. So it worked out really great for the ABC card. I hope when if they do UFC on ABC again, I hope they do give him some extra time to run over. Maybe it was because of the early time and doing it before the news, but I wouldn't mind if they had a prime time slot where they could go over and we could get some more of the post-fight stuff, the interview stuff. I think they did show Holloway saying that he'd like to make himself available for UFC 257 should something not happen where he'd have to fill in. But Dana White pretty much said no. Both those guys deserve to go home and get some rest after that, and you can't help but I 100% agree with that because even though he won, he took some damage, and these guys need rest. I mean, what they put their bodies through. Never mind the actual fight, but the weight cut and all that stuff. It's depleting. No matter how you look at it, no matter how good these guys are, they're losing a little bit of themselves before they refresh and get back in there. So I think that's what makes the sport so great. And it really, we saw last night, it really does show that anything can happen. I just, I think Ponzinibbio, did he dispute that loss? I feel like he may have, but man, great night of fights. We got literally a couple days before the next one, Wednesday night. So, again, check out the interviews that we have on MMAnews.com for the upcoming UFC events. Thank you so much for watching, those that tuned in. Got some comments here from I can't pronounce your name, but I appreciate you watching. That was someone on my Twitch stream. As you know, I streamed this on Periscope and my own Twitch channel before it winds up on the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. So if you're not following me, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter. I got all my stuff and all my links there. Check out MMAnews.com for all of the results, news, and things coming up for the upcoming cards and combat sports as we get the fight year going again. And if you're not on the If you haven't liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please make sure you click the bell notification and subscribe. I'll be doing another one of these after UFC 257, so it'll be a compilation of 7 takeaways from UFC 257 plus what we have happen on Wednesday with the midweek fight card. But UFC coming back strong for Abu Dhabi. I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. Thank you for those that watch this live and tune in afterward on the YouTube channel. That's it for this week, Sunday. Ed Carbazel tapping out. Peace. I should probably stop doing that. Sounds like fapping out.